Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
And here are tonight's main stories. But first tonight, the widespread building on floodplains that makes homes in parts of our region among the most at risk in the country. A new study reveals that nearly 5,000 new homes this year alone have been approved in areas at the highest risk of flooding in Yorkshire and the East Midlands.
Hull, Doncaster, Boston and North Lincolnshire all appear on that at-risk list, with insurers now calling on the government to reform planning rules. Now, Sally Simpson has been to see what's been done to reduce the risk of flooding in one area of North Lincolnshire, where there's planning for initial 2,500 new homes. And there'll be other towns in similar situations, so we'll keep you posted on how they get on.
Next tonight, though, figures show that it's been the country's COVID capital since the start of the pandemic, with death rates 75% higher than the national average.
Yes, sadly, a higher proportion of people have died with the virus in Barnsley than anywhere else in the UK. And today a memorial was unveiled in the town, marking that terrible legacy, as well as honouring key workers.
In a moment, we'll be hearing the views of one public health expert on why Barnsley suffered so badly. But first, Katie Oscroft reports on what the memorial means to some of those bereaved by COVID.
Still to come on the show, renewed calls. Well, next this evening, there are fresh calls from health experts in our region for pregnant women or those planning a family to get both doses of the COVID-19 vaccination.
It comes just days after England's chief medical officer set out some stark facts showing the majority of mums to be in hospital with coronavirus were unjabbed. Tonight we hear from fertility doctors who've been speaking to Calendar to dispel myths around the jab and the ability to conceive. Matt Price has this. That must be such a dilemma for expectant or new parents, mustn't it?
I covered this story at Good Morning Britain. I don't think I've ever had so many people get in touch who are really worried about it. And the best advice all those experts would give is to go and see your GP or obstetrician if you think your case may be different. But the overall advice is to get the jab.
Of course, good advice. OK, well, today the government has announced that new homes, as well as those undergoing major renovation, will be required to install an electric vehicle charging point. It's part of plans to support the phasing out of petrol and diesel cars by the end of the decade, but it does also prompt questions about whether our transport network is really ready for it.
That's the big question, isn't it? New research by the County Council's network claims in rural parts of Yorkshire and Lincolnshire, the average distance between public charging points is 16 miles. Compare that to London, where there's one every mile. Now, some of those living in the countryside say they feel excluded from e-vehicles by a lack of infrastructure. Nick Smith reports. Thanks for that, Mary. First of all, we've got Chris Dawkes with the sport.
And Chris, we've been introduced to the new manager at Barnsley today.
We don't often see that open collar shirt, do you? Great person, she's great, he's Bryony.
What a sweetheart. And I was just thinking, Chris, do you think the open tie?
Nice, I think that's probably the way for
it.
Everyone, let's all get more relaxed, shall we?
Wonderful, we'll see you like that tomorrow.
See you later.
Chris, now let's just go back to our earlier story from this evening. On our Facebook page, you've been discussing the issue of electric vehicles, both having charging points at home and the wider network.
Well, we'll go to Mick McNicholas first. He posted the infrastructure isn't there, and for millions of people, they are now and will remain an inaccessible and unusable option.
Well, Stacey Parker added, I can't afford an electric car or to install an electric port at my property, let alone pay for the electricity inflation that is going on.
But Sean Williams is a big fan. He says, I moved to electric cars 11 years ago. It's the best thing I ever did. It drives better than any petrol or diesel, fast, smooth, no noise, and it saved me 120 quid in fuel every week. No brainer. Well, that's the point, isn't it? But it's just a lot of people feel very nervous about them and where they're going to charge them.
Yeah, unsure about whether or not they should really invest. Well, thank you for all of those. Remember, you can always join in. You can still join the conversation. Just head to facebook.com/calendar news.
Yeah, I'd be nervous about that. I think that a lot of the time it's the fact that you might get there, but if your car has a range of 120 miles, you might get stuck on the way home. So yeah, there's a bit of nerves around it, but hopefully we can encourage more people to help us go green. Kerry's here to tell us what the weather's going to be doing. Well, that's it from us. I'll have your next update at a slightly later time of 10:50.
The national and international stories are next with Mary Nightingale.
But for now, from all the team here on Calendar, thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.